Hi everyone. I wanted to make a video on featurism and texturism when it comes to being mixed race and the Black community, specifically with West African features, because I do understand in Africa there are many countries, and in East Africa or North Africa there's also different features with different tribal mixtures and ethnicities as well, versus in West Africa, where the slaves were from. That's what most Black Americans are mixed with. That's their ancestry, is from West Africa originally. And I had some comments from my last video when talking about how mixed race people should identify. And it's an interesting topic, and I do appreciate all the comments and perspectives, really, because that's what this channel is about. But I do want to point out, in the Black community, a lot of times, and it does have to do with white supremacy and some self-hate that was just taught and programmed in the United States, that being Black isn't good. Even though we know that that's not true, being Black is beautiful and should be embraced. But I just think because of slavery and the history of this country, unfortunately, in the Black community, there are a lot of features and texture of your hair or skin color that gets argued, especially when you are mixed race, because it's almost like this fighting over what your features are and what is considered Black versus what's considered white. And unless you are like pale white with blonde hair and blue eyes, but you happen to be mixed, then a lot of Black people want to claim your typical features as a biracial person that's half Black or mixed with Black as the standard for what Black features are. And in general, that's not the case. Now, with Black features, West African, Sub-Saharan African Black features, we know the typical ones. There's always exceptions to rules, but that's why there are rules. And then exceptions are kind of like unconventional things that are like, whoa, that was like a case of something completely different. But in the normal part of what Black Americans look like from the West African features, it's typically broader noses, higher cheekbones, more almond-shaped eyes. You know what it is, type 4 hair for the most part. Yes, there are exceptions, but it's typically type 4 hair. And what I'm seeing are people that are mixed race, half Black, and they might have some of these or a lot of Black features because Black features are more dominant than white, or African features are more dominant than European. So if you are mixed with Black, chances are you're going to have some Black features that are going to stand out, whether it be your nose, your lips, your hair, your skin color. Mixed people that have any kind of skin tone that's not white, that's part of their Black features that are coming out, because white people obviously are white. They don't typically have darker skin unless they're some Southern Italian or Greek, some type of Mediterranean, because I actually have known and seen a lot of white people that are darker, like that look like me. I'm thinking of Alessia Cara. I don't even know if that's how you say her name, but anyway, she looks like she's mixed race. I thought she was, but she's actually Italian from Canada. But anyway, there's always exceptions to rules, but typically what Black people look like and what white people look like are their normal features from the parts of the world that they come from. And then when you are a mixed race person, you typically have an evenly distributed features from both sides. Rather, you might have a little bit more Black features or a little bit more white features, or just the ambiguity that comes with it because it is so mixed race. And I wanted to point that out because another comment that I had received, which I do appreciate this person's perspective, I really do. And I'm not trying to come at anyone disrespectfully, but when it comes to history with some Black people that looked more like they had straighter hair or looked more Native American or indigenous, for example. And when you look at old pictures like from the 1800s and 1700s, a lot of Black people were already mixed because of slavery. So even if they weren't, like they might have had two Black parents, but those parents might have had white in them as well, because we know with the graping of the female slaves, a lot of the slaves were mixed race. So that's why you got the lighter skin tones. They might have had more of the Black features, but they had lighter skin tones, or maybe their hair texture was a little looser. And of course, those mixed people would also procreate, and they would have more mixed people. So you have your multi-generationally mixed people. So they're Black, but they also have a mixed race down the line as well, or there is one white ancestor. And so today, as that's leaked out into 2024, almost in 2025, most Black Americans are at least 20% of some type of European descent because of graping and slavery, which that's a sad fact, but it is true. That's why Black Americans look different from someone from Liberia or Nigeria or somewhere like that, because in Nigeria, there's no mixing there. They have different tribes, but their actual ethnicity or their race, they are Nigerian, and that's how they look. Whereas in America, there's a mixture of people that have Ghanaian ancestry, Nigerian ancestry, Congolese, all of these different African countries mixing together, making a Black American on top of European descent because of the graping. And that's why we have different people that, like Black people, come in all shapes and sizes and colors, that type of narrative. And although that is true, obviously not all Black people look alike, but there are typical features. And the comment that I'm referring to as well is with mixed people that I guess they look like a typical Black person. So if there's someone who is Black with two Black parents, but then there's a biracial person, and let's just say they have the same skin color or the same type of hair or whatever, that doesn't mean that that is the typical look of all Black people, that they look biracial, because we know that's not true. And if you have two Black parents or even grandparents, everybody is Black for the most part, but they all still have some type of ancestry that is white, more than likely. And even when you have ancestry that you are 90% mostly African, you can tell, because I've seen really light-skinned Black people that have two Black parents that are even lighter than me, and I'm pretty light, but they don't have any type of white features either. They might have type 4 hair. They might have, like, their nose is different, their mouth is different, lips are different, all of these different things. So there are features that you can pick and choose, but that's why the whole featurism and texturism argument is so insane to me, because it starts to put the confusion and overcomplicate what white and Black people look like or what biracial people look like. And that's why if you have someone who is more Black passing and they want to identify more as Black and they happen to be biracial, then you get away with it. So like Halle Berry, even though I do think she looks mixed, but she also looks like a Black person. Like if she said she had a Black mom and a Black father, I would believe her, but it would be kind of like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, where they both have Black parents, but there is MGM. They have like lighter eyes, lighter skin, their hair is a little bit different. And it's because someone down the line was mixed and then eventually white. And that's typical in the Black community in the United States. And then the ones that are of darker complexion, which is the typical look, are the ones that are not as mixed, not as multi-generationally mixed. So they might have had maybe less of the graping in their family line, or just the African traits were more dominant. So after the slaves, gave birth to a biracial child, maybe that biracial child ended up marrying one of the pure African slaves, and then they just kept that line going. That's also possible. But there was so much going on back in the day. And a lot of the Black women, and a lot of people don't know this, which is why I'm against wearing bonnets in public for Black women specifically, because for one, it's not a good look. But for two, this is what white people used to do to Black people. They used to make them hide their hair because their hair was beautiful and it was intimidating to white women. So they obviously didn't have type 2, type 3, or straight hair, because if they did, then there would be no need to hide it, because white women have all kinds of different hair too. They have type 1, 2, and sometimes even type 3 hair for the most part. You don't really see white people with type 4. Again, there's exceptions to rules. Somebody can pull up some pure white girl with an afro, but typically that is not how they look. And it's the same with Black people. Typically, they do not have bone straight hair, or they don't have type 2 and even type 3 hair. They might have type 4A, B, whatever. But they would use wrapping methods back in the 1700s and 1800s. And that's why we still, to this day, Black people, when they get like a silk press and then they wrap it, or if they don't want to use heat, they stretch their hair and it can look like it's straight. So if you're looking at pictures from the 17 and 1800s and they have it pulled back and they have it in braids, a lot of times that's what it would do. and black people would braid their hair so it can come in those waves and stretch it out versus just wearing it into the afro. But white people would make them cover their hair up. So that's where that came from, to hide that beauty. So if they had the same type of hair as white people, they typically have straight hair, then why would they need to hide that? Why would that intimidate white women? They don't have anything to be intimidated against because their hair looks the same, right? And also with the industry of relaxers, it's so interesting to me that how that was marketed so much in the black community. And it breaks your hair off. It doesn't allow your hair to grow. And that's why there's the stereotype that black women can't grow long hair, which we know that that's not true. It's just that it takes more effort into making like type 4 hair grow because of it can be dry and the texture of it. You can't do the same things to it as you can with looser hair textures. But it was marketed to them to have straight hair to conform to white supremacy, but also to, again, another form of hide their beauty and destroy their beauty. And that's why there's so many black women whose hair wouldn't grow, and it was so unhealthy, and they have to keep cutting it off and starting over again. And it's just one of those waiting games where you're waiting for your hair to grow out, but properly knowing how to take care of it when you have type 4 hair makes the difference all in the world. And if you have a looser hair texture, typically you're not fully black. And that's just the fact of it. So when people are saying that black people can have straight hair, sure, they can, but not typically. I mean, I have never met one like an actual black person that is not mixed with any white down the line. I've never met one that has naturally straight hair, or even naturally like type 2 hair. If they did, they were mixed. Either they were biracial or their grandparent was white or somebody was like Asian or something else. They weren't your typical black person. So I just wanted to make this audio to kind of highlight some points of why the hair texture with the texturism and featurism is such a big thing. And it also is quite interesting as a mixed race person that we have so many people arguing our features, mostly in the black community though, because again, I don't really see this in the white community where they're arguing to try to make us look more white. They clearly, if they're not racist, they clearly will say, well, yeah, you have the mixed features. Like I was talking to my aunt the other night, and she's white. And she had even said that, you know, with my look, because I'm lighter skinned and my hair texture, even some of my features makes me look different than other black people. And also in my experience, I don't get treated the same way as a full black person because of my features. Even if I have black features that black people can see themselves in me, I'm not the standard of what a black person looks like. That's just a fact as well. And I'm not the standard of what a white person looks like either. I'm the standard of what a mixed person in my mixture makeup looks like. And of course, we all look different too. Some of us can be more black passing or white passing, but typically we look like we have mixed features. So you can see the black and the white features on a mixed race person. Rather you want to deny that or not, or say, no, this is how most black people look. Like, no, it's not. That is not how most black people look. I'm sorry. And there's nothing wrong with that. Black people, to me, are beautiful. Whether they're dark skin, light skin, mixed, whatever, it doesn't matter. So why is it that with mixed people, that's put on our shoulders that if we embrace our mixture, that we're not fully black, then people have to try to humble us by saying, well, you just look like every other black person if it wasn't for your hair, or if it wasn't for your eye color, or whatever the case is. When it's like, well, what's wrong with having different features, and why do you have to say, oh, that's most black people for you? Like it's almost like you're trying to say your beauty or your race is invalid because you look more black. Okay, well, what does that even mean? So that's what I'm trying to say, is that it doesn't matter if you have two black parents, but you look like you might be mixed. You have some type of, down the line, there's some kind of European descent. There's not really a full Black American that is fully black. Now, like I said, once, since of course the generations, if people continue to just be with Black people over time, then yes, that ancestry does go down. But when people take their ancestry DNA test now, for the most part, Black Americans have 85% African and maybe like 15 to 20% European. And that is from slavery. And that's just sometimes those features will come up with two Black people because these are two Black people from different families, but the same type of history as far as the graping. So you're mixing, maybe let's just say the guy has 15% European and the girl has 15% European in her line. So then mixing that, there's like that percentage that could pop up for the child. So it's MGM. That's what that is. So I wanted to just clarify that and kind of get on the soapbox with that a little bit. I'll talk more about texturism and featurism as well, but I just find it interesting when mixed people start speaking about their experiences. There is, of course, a lot of positivity, but then there's also this pushback from the Black community mainly. I mean, there are pushback from white people too, but it's not about fighting to be white or anything. It's just more about if they're racist, then that's what they'll say. Otherwise, they just say you're mixed. Like they don't care. You're a mixed Black person or you're mixed, whatever. Doesn't matter. But that is all for today. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time.